We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and it's a point. It's a point in the book for the black and red. Should have been 3, any kind of way you look at it. But we sit here after a game against a good Philadelphia Union team, and you talk about it should have been 3, and you took a point. I think this DC United team has to take that.
Yeah.
John Lee, joined as always by Sam Kastner, Joshua Morgan, and Michael Black as we come onto the airways awaiting hearing from Chad Ashton. We'll find out which player is going to join us. But first time in a while we're talking about a result.
Yeah, it's the first time in a while we've been really disappointed about a tie. You know, I saw something that I agreed with, which is basically like coming into this, I would have really loved a tie. After watching the game, it was unfortunate we didn't come away with 3 points, and that's just shocking right now.
You know, I told you all during the game, you know, this is the DC United team I kind of expected to see for most of this season. You know, it was not a team that was going to just outshoot and be a, you know, superior talent to the team they're playing against. But they went out there, they created chances, they, you know, got in the mixer and made some things happen. And I think you're all exactly right. We definitely could have ended up with 3 points against a very good Philadelphia Union team.
You know, it's indicative of the whole game that DC United played pretty well, but it was a very short span. I was actually on the way to the bathroom. Luckily for me, the TV was in line of sight of the bathroom door because I was then stuck in the bathroom because you guys wouldn't let me out. Because we've gotten to that point of superstition here as DC United.
Yeah, it was a 4-minute stretch.
It was right before, like the first corner kick, and then we got another corner kick. So he was standing there, and then we scored. He celebrated. He shut the door. He opened the door again. And then as he was opening the door, we were like, "It's a PK," and he was like, "Guys, stop lying." And we were like, "No, we really have a PK." He stood in the bathroom for the PK. We didn't let him move until Philly scored on us.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Philly scored once you left the bathroom, right?
No.
He stayed until we were not going to let him out.
I recognize the superstition.
If you missed if you missed the first half, you didn't miss a whole lot. You saw a few quality minutes from Flores. He was subbed off at halftime.
Out.
Yeah, Yamil had a great game overall. I might be letting him out of the doghouse. We'll see.
Oh, wow.
It was a great performance tonight, and you wonder what kind of went into that, right? Is that I hate to say it, but did the change in coaching kind of unlock some of that? I mean, we heard from
You don't
Yamil.
Actually hate to say that.
Well, it's no, I
kind
don't.
of both.
But I remember hearing from him a month or so ago in one of the match day -2 press conferences, and he was just like, these weren't his exact words, but something to the effect of like, it pretty much sucks defending for the whole game, and that's obviously not what they've done the last 2 nights, and he looked like he was having fun out there, and it was a quality shift for Yamil tonight. Yeah,
I mean, the whole team just comes out with so much more confidence, and I think that they're just like having a little bit more fun with it, right? We heard that from a few different players in recent press conferences, that it's just not fun. It's so hard to just absorb that much pressure, but now that they've been given kind of the go-ahead to go out there and be creative, I mean, Assad was pulling moves left and right. I thought Pines had a much better first half than a second half, so maybe don't completely ignore the first half.
Well, but he scored in the second half,
he did,
right?
And
so congrats to a friend of the show, Donovan Pines. We promised him he could come over and cheer in front of us when he was on during the coronavirus hiatus. But
it's almost it's shocking that he scored the goal, but almost as big a story is that bike he tried to pull.
Oh man,
I feel like so he's going to be joining us on the press conference. And I feel like somebody has to ask him what he was thinking and if he's actually pulled that off at any other point, because that was an incredible effort.
I think that was a chopper, right? This is a huge individual, and that
bicycle is too small to describe.
My hip hurts from watching that, right? He scored on that. Forget about it. We would have been at Audi Field cheering, running down the street.
It was great. You love to see the passion. And again, that's not something that I think we would have probably seen a couple games ago. There's just this life and this passion that this team has again, that we were really missing. And I mean, that's something we've heard a lot of. We needed to have that grit. And in referencing Benny, he brought that passion and that leave it all on the field mentality that Chad really wanted to see the players emulate in these last games of the season.
Well, and when you talk about mentality, first of all, we made this point before. Both of the goals we gave up today were not goals that happened in transition. They were mental lapses, things that were issues. And
They weren't on set pieces either.
They weren't on set
which
pieces,
was nice.
but there are situations where it's a question of defending better. It's not a question of getting caught out because you had gotten stretched too far forward. It was just a question of failing to do what you need to do in defense, and that's something you've seen this entire season. Is that it's a team that wanted to sit back and defend and defend and defend. Didn't take risks going forward, and so far they haven't really been punished for it.
I'm glad you brought that up, Michael. I was just about to talk about Philly's goals. They weren't. One was a deflected shot from far, and the other was a complete lapse in the back with our not normal center backs back there. And so it's been since September 20th that DC United got a result, and tonight, for the first time in a really long time, maybe the whole season, it wasn't DC United who were fortunate to get the goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is going to be as happy, I'm sure, as Chad is to get his first point as interim coach. Like, I think that he's going to come out pretty upset that those 2 goals happened, because that was something in the pregame press conference. Somebody said, like, hey, that was your first game. Obviously, we didn't get the result, but what positives are you taking away from it? And he was like, well, first of all, we have to fix the mistakes. He's like, I'm not even going to talk about the positives. I just know that these things need to change. And we need to work on these moving forward. And what he basically talked about were those defensive errors, and we saw them again tonight. So I would be surprised if that was something he didn't mention, and something that they didn't work on leading into yet another game in just a couple days.
And when you talk about the change of mentality as well, I don't think any of us really expect this team to be in the playoffs. It's still a reality of where you are.
It's more than. Yeah. I don't know now, but it was prior.
I was
going to
say, I was ready to call it Sam. I was like, I think Sam said we had a shot last week, but
I was the one who looked it up. One of y'all did, but I'll be hopeful till we have that 0.
Regardless, these are still professionals. They still are out there going to play to win. But you do think that it lifts a little bit off the shoulders of the team and the coaching staff, frankly, to be able to say, hey, we're going to go out there and play the best soccer we can, instead of having to, again, grind out results like that NYCFC game we saw back in September, where you said, well, we got a point, it's fine. This has the same impact on the standings, but you feel a lot more positive coming out of this game after coming back from behind and taking a lead, and probably should have held on to it.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that, regardless of the playoff situation, we talked about this a little bit last episode, I'm sure we're going to talk about it again, is that, new regime, new rules almost, right? Like, we're going to see changes. Yeah. So these players are fighting for their careers at DC United at this point, potentially. And I think we're going to...
Yeah.
Not ready yet? Okay.
We're ready to throw it over to the press conference.
All right, let's do it.
Last episode, I'm sure we're going to talk about it again.
Of the team
is that,
to rebound,
new regime, new rules almost, right?
half.
Like, we're going to see...
I thought it was great. I thought we showed real character. It would have been easy after they got the goal to just say, here we go again, but you saw the guys bounce back immediately, start to threaten, create chances, get some set pieces. I couldn't ask for more the last 2 games. The guys are giving everything they possibly have. There's no question, how hard they're working. There's no question the hearts, the desire. So I'm really proud of the group again. I just thought we showed great character on the night.
We'll go to Pablo next. Pablo, go ahead, man.
Chad, I wanted to ask in particular about Yamil Assad's performance. He seems to be games a little bit more the past game or two, and I'm curious what you've made of his play.
You cut out a little bit there in the middle there, Pablo. Can you say it again?
I just wanted to ask about Yamil Assad's performance in the past couple of games. He seems to be sort of finding his way.
Yeah, I think he's been great. I think, he's been a real leader. He's obviously playing in a different position tonight, and you certainly couldn't tell. Picking up the slack of Junior not being in there. But yeah, I think over the 2 games, he's been so steady and such a calming influence with regards to our team getting on the ball more, good decision-making, going for, the tougher balls more at the right time. And that's kind of what we've asked the entire group is we need to be a little more patient with the ball. We need to knock and move a little bit more and just get on the ball. And especially once we get in the final third, just slow down a little bit and see if we can create more by making an extra pass or two rather than trying to rush and get in there and put the first one immediately into the middle or whatever it may be. But again, over the last 2 games, I feel like we've manufactured enough chances to win both games, and he's been a big part of that.
Go to Jason Anderson next. Jason, go ahead.
Hi, Chad. Thanks for speaking with us. Obviously, you started Edison Flores out on the left side of midfield tonight, gave him the 45 minutes. How do you think he did with a little more responsibility as well as just a longer stint in the game after his injury?
I think he did well. I think his fitness is coming along. We got to find ways to get him on the ball a little bit more and then get people running off of him a little bit more. And part of that's him taking the responsibility of moving without the ball and getting on it. But I do feel like every time he touches the ball, good things happen. His decision-making is good. He sees the entire field. I think at times little things are lacking and he struggles with the mask a little bit. So I think at times when the ball's underneath him at his feet, that's causing him a little bit of problem, and we'll continue to try and fix that. But considering how long he's been out, to jump in 2 games and look the way he's looked and move forward with regards to his fitness is a real credit to him and how hard he's worked to get back.
We'll go to Mauricio next. Mauricio, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Coach, for the time. You kind of answered my question about Edison Flores, but I have a question about Kevin Paredes. How was his performance? Because I see that he started in the initial 11. And, Kevin Paredes, how do you think he's doing now?
I think he's doing well, especially for a younger player. He's figuring out the balance of the game, when to get forward, how to go about defensive responsibilities. I still think he can figure out some different ways to get involved in the final third and be a little more complete in the final third. He tends to, once he gets to the final third, have his mind made up a little bit rather than taking what the defense is giving him. But his energy, his decision-making for a young player, I thought he was excellent. I thought he put in a great shift, and his progress as a player and playing in this league is really fun to watch, just in terms of his learning curve and how quickly he's figuring things out.
We'll take 2 more questions. We'll go to Emily Olson next. Emily, go ahead.
Hi, Chad. This is the first point in a while here, and you mentioned about last week seeing the way that the team played and the improvements that they've had. Is there a sense of relief at all getting this point here, that it's kind of proof that this group is pulling together what they can this last stretch?
I don't know if relief is the right word, but I do think the group feels like they're taking steps forward together. I think a product of that the fact that you said it's been a while since we've picked up a point. I think that played into our mentality when we took the lead. So when we took the 2-1 lead, I think you saw us in our mentality in terms of just dropping off, getting a little too deep. And that's a product of that. We haven't gotten a result in a while. And I think if, we continue to put performances in like this and we get leads, we'll start to figure out, hey, we can continue to play. We can continue to attack. We don't have to fall off. And that was the mentality after they scored. So we've got to kind of take a step forward in that neighborhood, but we are making progress. Again, last game created more chances. This game, finding a way to get 2 goals. If we keep moving forward in all the little integral details with regards to getting results now, we'll start to become a little bit more of a complete team.
Last question, Chad. We'll go to Jose Umania. Jose, go ahead.
Hey, Chad. Just wanted to ask about Donovan Pines, what you saw of him overall, and how did you feel, him getting that goal, breaking away from the defender to get that goal to build momentum for you guys?
His goal was great, great glancing header. He was dangerous on every set piece on the night going forward. I thought overall he was pretty good with the ball. He still at times needs to recognize when there's danger and just lump the ball. Like there's times where it's intelligent and smart to play, and there's times where it's intelligent just to put it in the other end and say, let's move up and force the other team to break us down defensively. But on the night, I thought his aggression was awesome. It was a big part of why we were getting on the ball, especially in the first half. It was a big part of why they weren't able to have longer possessions and basically play through lines, was he disrupted every entry ball into the forwards. So he still has to figure out, the big moments and important spots on the field. But again, like he's getting great experience right now for a guy who hasn't seen a million games in this league. I think he's moving forward and he's getting better with all the little details, and we'll continue to talk about that and work on those, both with him individually, but within the team framework as well.
Chad, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
That's DC United interim head coach Chad Ashton at the podium. And, listen, we talked about a 2-2 draw, getting a point, first point in quite a long time. I think I called the technical term forever ever. But it's a good point against the Philadelphia Union team that's one of the better in the league. They're second in the East, only 3 points back of the lead behind Toronto. Chad Ashton, is he making a bit of a run at potentially taking over on a permanent basis? It's been 2 games. It's obviously been very different play that we've seen, all season. But, of course, he does only have 1 point through 2 games. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I think it's astonishing how different this team looks in just the short amount of time. Look, we talked about he had 3 practices before last game, and the team played really well there. And then they face one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference and almost pulled out the result tonight. I think they were a little bit unlucky. They were a little bit lucky themselves, but I think they were a little bit unlucky not to get 3 points tonight. And it's not like Philly didn't bring it. So clearly he's doing something right in a very short amount of time. And I still think he's just trying to see who he's got. I don't know.
I completely agree. I think I will judge him most harshly on the game next Saturday, because that's when he will have a full week of really training and chatting with these guys and kind of letting them know what he wants to see on the field. Right now, it is probably very reactionary because you can't go all in on practices in the way that you would want to when you only have 2 or 3 days before games. So I think that will be kind of his best opportunity to make a case. But I mean, he's making a case now. He's making a decent one. I think he's at least going to get an interview.
Yeah, I expect that Chad Ashton's going to coach like his job depends on it, because it does. Yeah. He's going to get the guys in the best position he can and try to win some games. And at the end of the day, if the body of work justifies it, then it'll be part of the conversation. The last time we played Philly, albeit on the road and with a
we got smashed
depleted roster, it was 4-1. And I agree with you, Sam. I think that game next weekend in Atlanta is going to be determinative too, because the last time we played Atlanta here,
it was 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago,
and we got smashed.
You shipped 4 goals. And hardly the beginning of the end, but the writing was on the wall there. So I think if you do start to see turnarounds in big games against opponents that especially a Philly team that is top of the league, you have to start asking, hey, can this guy get it done for us long term?
I also think that what we're seeing right now is not necessarily Chad Ashton's vision for DC United, right? He came in halfway through the season. It's a lot of games in a short span. It's a really dire situation to come into. And he hasn't worked with the GM on transfers, right? So I think that he could be making his case on the field, but off the field, like in those interviews or in those conversations he's having with the front office, it could be completely different. He could want to take the team in a completely different direction.
If there was ever a stat to show the difference between the Olsen era and the first couple games in the Ashton era, 14 shots tonight by DC United. That's 2 more than Philly. Let's send it to Donovan Pines, who's at the podium now.
We'll go ahead and dive in. Reminder for folks to raise their hand if you have a question. We'll go to Steve Goff first. Steve.
Donovan, congratulations on the goal.
Thank you, Steve.
Take us through that goal, and also what do you think that goal did for the team, having been able to come back from a deficit. These types of deficits have really sunk you guys the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think that goal, meant so much to me, and meant the world to me because it's my first goal, and I love this club, and I'm really happy that I was able to get one against a good Philadelphia Union side. And I in that goal, I was just so focused on just getting off my man and just going into space, and I feel like I moved around a little bit more this game, and moved my defender, and finally I got free, and Yamil played a perfect ball, and I got to give credit where credit is due, and so I ran over to him and made sure I gave him the love that he deserved, because that was a great ball, a great cross in, and I'm really blessed to be part of this team, and that gave so much life to us and really gave us hope to score another one, and we did, which is really, really cool in the fact that we were up a goal against a very good Philadelphia Union side, and it's tough that we didn't get the result, but we're happy that we got a point, and we'll move on to Cincinnati.
Thanks, Donovan. We'll go to Jason Anderson next. Jason, go ahead, man.
Hi, Donovan. Congrats on the goal, and thanks for speaking with us. Chad mentioned just before you came in that one of the things he wanted to emphasize tonight was that you were more aggressive in breaking play up. I was wondering the relationship that you have with Fred now that you're developing, getting this run of games. How does that play into you being able to step high more frequently and be more of a factor like that?
I think you're right. It comes with, getting games and communication. So, I'm playing more games with Fred as in a 4-back. So, as us in the two, like left center back and right center back. And, he's giving me, trust that I can go and step to the guy, the striker that's up top. If he's checking in, and I know he has my back. So, over these, period of games, I'm getting that trust from Fred, and that's making me be more aggressive, and I can, be more aggressive and have Joseph also cover and have Fred cover. And, it feels really good to have that covering back line.
We'll go back to Steve Goff. Steve, go ahead, man.
Donovan, how does it affect the players psychologically when there is a coaching change? How does it influence you or change your mentality or your desire? What's the impact, you think?
I think, you just got to have faith and, trust the process. So, we're starting on a new coach, new slate. And, we want to give everything for Chad because, he gave so much for this club as well as, assistant to Ben. So we want to, proceed in the right direction and, fight for, the club and fight for what we want to do in the next coming games and try to develop an identity for next year. So we can't just, take games off. We have to make sure we focus and develop what we need to get better this season and the rest of the game. So we have something to build on.
We'll go to Jimena next. Jimena, go ahead.
Donovan, congratulations of the goal. Who would
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who would you say has become a leader on the field?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like you can't name one leader. I think we all have leadership qualities in us, and we all have to, be accountable for our, actions. Either if you don't talk, or you just leave it all on the field. You can be a leader in that. So you don't have to be a vocal leader, but you can just leave everything on the field and be a leader in that. So I feel like everybody has those qualities on the field, but I think if I could name one person, I think Fred's doing a great job leading the squad and always, speaking to players, communicating, and making sure we're, tuned in as much as possible. So I think he's been a great, captain since Steve is gone. And I'm really blessed to have, a vocal and a good center back to play with on the left side and right side.
We'll go to Mauricio next. Mauricio, go ahead, man.
Donovan, congratulations on the goal. And I see that the defense and the offense have changed a little. Did something that Coach Chad said to you guys, or the mentality of trying to win the rest of the games change? What was the specific movement that we saw today? Because it was 10 times better than the other games.
That's a great question. I think, as I said before, we want to develop an identity. So we want to see, how we're playing up top and, pressing as much as possible in the beginning of the game, making them uncomfortable, and then being aggressive in the back line to make them force turnovers. So we're trying to play, at a good pace, fast pace, and make runs in behind, and just be as quick as possible to try to go forward. So I think we're pressing more as a team. Eric did a great job up top, pressing, Mark and Jack, and the strike. Ola did a great job too. The strikers did a great job forcing the one side and pinching those corners and turning the ball over. So I think Chad is everyone's proud about how we played, and hopefully we can build off this game.
I'll take one more question. We'll go to Emily Olson. Emily, go ahead.
Hey, Donovan, 2 quick questions here. First, on the field, did you feel like because it's been so long since you guys were able to get the lead that something kind of dropped on the field in your performance just because it's been so long? And then the second, do you feel that getting a point against a very good Philadelphia team gives you guys confidence going forward?
I think, this is a great step forward. We put in a lot of effort tonight in both halves, and everyone, I think, left everything on the field. And, it was unfortunate that we gave up, that last goal. It was a great strike by Mark. But, at the end of the day, everyone put in the work. You could see the, exhausted faces after the game. And, I'm really proud of the guys who played today and who came in off the bench as well. And, we can build off this game because it's a very, very good Philadelphia Union squad. And so this gives us, positive, vibes going into Cincinnati. So hopefully we can, get our heads straight throughout the week and, focus on what we're going to prepare for Cincinnati and go to Cincinnati and hopefully beat them.
Donovan, thanks again for your time, man, and congrats again on the goal. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's DC United's Donovan Pines celebrating his first career MLS goal, second in our hearts, of course. And my question to you guys after listening to him talk there, and of course after watching the game and seeing a fair amount of Donovan this season, is Donovan Pines the future center back we pair with Steven Birnbaum, or does DC United need to go out and try to find a longer-term franchise option there?
Wow, John.
I'll say I hope so, right? Even if it's not next season.
What is this?
What?
Look, we just had a Donovan Pines parade, and you're just
I think at some point we've got to talk about this, right? I mean,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
And Sam was giving us a good pitch,
yeah, I had
and
a
you're
whole
laughing
answer
at me.
ready, and you just thought it was a throwaway question.
Show is off the rails, man.
I'm just like, can we appreciate the goal first?
So Joshua obviously thinks no, and he just doesn't want to be negative right now in this situation.
Sam, take it away. I can mute his mic.
Yeah, thank you. So actually muted. I appreciate. I made the comment during the game that Donovan Pines is around the same age that Ian Harkes was when he first signed for the team after college, and that blew everyone's mind. He was like the youth, and there was like a side conversation about like going to college versus just going to MLS and the pros and cons of that. But everyone was super excited to have this young talent from the area who is going to come into DC and like really make big things happen. And Pines is that age now. So as I was saying, it's even if it's not necessarily like next season, even if he still needs a little bit of time to like develop and figure the league out a little bit, I'm not mad about that, right? Center back is usually your older players on the team. They're usually the players who have the experience in reading the game, in playing in those big moments, right? They're the people who need to bring that calming presence. They're not the youthful energy that you see on the team. So if it takes a little while, I'm not mad about that. I'd love to see him get chances here and there if it does end up taking a little while. But I would love to see him stay in DC. I just love hearing him in those interviews, right? He was fun for us to interview, and we did during the coronavirus hiatus. So I'd love to see him stick with the team for a very long time. Anybody
that describes their first goal as being so important because they, quote, love this team is obviously a guy I want to see stick around. And Sam, I mean, the silver lining in all this is that with Birnbaum on the shelf for at least the rest of the regular season, we're going to be seeing Donovan Pines for the rest of the season, so that's going to give him ample opportunities. Yeah, and that's what I mean. And even if in the postseason we sign a different center back and if he's a little bit older and more experienced and he's Birnbaum's pairing, at least if Donovan's kind of getting those minutes and getting that time and kind of learning under them, if he could be kind of like the next wave within DC United, I'd love that.
Well, and what we've seen this year is that you need center back depth. You can't just expect
That's so true,
to
yeah.
get by with two guys, especially playing four at the pack. You're going to end up needing all hands on deck. I would love for us to be looking back in 5 years or so and say that Donovan Pines has developed into a real leader on this team and is an anchor at the back. That'd be an excellent thing and a real testament to us bringing in a guy from the local area. I think also to your point about him getting a lot more playing time down the stretch, that is so crucial, especially for a guy at the beginning of his career, building those relationships at the back, really knowing how to play with your partners back there. That's really where you see a lot of that cohesive defending. You figure out what you're doing, you know where you expect everyone else to be, and there's only so much you can do with that in practice. So I think the more time he gets, the more he's going to have a chance to show it, and you really saw it pay off tonight.
I think what Sam brought up about the comparison to Harks is amazing because it's kind of this weird route to MLS. I mean, we have the college draft. We've had that forever, or this what do they call it? The super draft.
It's not just the draft, Joshua. It is the super draft.
Yeah, and we've seen the introduction of these academy players, these kids that are good enough to skip college outright and become a professional at 16, 17, 18, like Yao and Griffin and Moses. But this weird route that Harks and now Pines have taken it where they went to college. Even Harks was the Herman winner, which is the best collegiate player. Pines was a senior at Maryland when he decided to go professional. I think it's a really cool route because they get that experience. We get to see some film on them, and then they join. I do agree, despite John's look. I just didn't want to rain on his parade with his goal tonight. I'm so happy for him. But yes, I think we should pursue at the back. He was a little shaky, and Briant's getting old. I don't know if Pines is ready to be our starter and not occasional rotation guy. The Williams guy from Blackburn that we were heavily rumored with. I tried to look it up. Yeah. I think we should still be looking at that.
Yeah, and I appreciate, and fair enough, calling me out on like talking about this right after a press conference, right? I'm super pumped for Donovan as well. It's an important conversation. It's one we have to have because, unfortunately, this guy has had some challenges staying healthy, throughout his career, getting to here. And this has been the first season where we've seen a ton of him. And it's admittedly been ups and downs, but I think overall, I mean, the team's had ups and downs, right? And so
we've had him on the roster for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Has it only been 2 years?
Yeah.
This is year 2 or this is year 3?
This is year 2, right?
Is it really?
Well,
I guess I was thinking it was a little longer.
He's spent some time with Loudon, right?
Yeah,
I think that
he
was
played
also
some
last
games
year,
with
though.
them. Yeah,
but that would have had to have been last year.
This is year 2, so hard to say.
I want to say I thought we had hoped last year was the year that he took over for Briant. I want to say this is year 3, and then Briant had a really good
played
year.
out his mind.
Yeah, and then of course this year's been all over the place.
And I'd still be fine if he were to play himself in a position where he is outplaying Briant and getting on the field.
Oh yeah,
Briant's been playing at a high level. If you've got a guy who's outperforming that, especially a guy who's younger and frankly cheaper on your salary cap, that's a win for the team.
Yeah, and I think that was a very important point that we just want to see depth in that position. Maybe, I mean, I think Briant's had a little bit rougher season than he did last season. Maybe Pine starts playing out of his mind these past few games. Maybe he, plays pretty well, and then whoever the new coach is, comes in, gives him a chance, and he is the starter next season. I would love to see that happen. I think that he might not be in the best 11 for center backs, but I think that he definitely holds his own out there.
Definitely agree, and I think we all hope that we see Donovan Pines continue to grow and be a big part of this team moving forward. I'm laughing here a little bit. During the game, we saw some sour grapes from our Philly friends on Twitter, frustrated with the refereeing. But this quote from Jim Curtin's post-game press conference is just outrageous. He said, I quote, "They grew the grass nice and long here. They don't have a lawnmower anymore at the stadium, so they made the game ugly."
Oh, wow.
My man is butthurt. There's no way around it. What? I just... Jim, your guys didn't play that well tonight, I think is the bottom line.
That's shocking. Yeah, I think there are a lot of excuses. Philly just didn't play well tonight.
And I don't think it was a particularly slow game either. I mean, the ball's moving around quite a bit.
This is a Philly team that committed 20 fouls on the night. If you're talking about a team that's trying to make the game ugly.
Yeah, they must have been stumbling on the Kentucky Bluegrass over there.
I mean, if we want
Southwest.
to talk refereeing decisions, I guess we can talk about the opportunity in the first half where Assad gets tackled right on the edge of the box. Is it in? Is it out?
It was definitely out.
Definitely out.
Hilarious.
But I appreciate that they had the opportunity to take a look at it and then confirm the decision. But
That would have been devastating, by the way. I mean, I would have felt a little bit for Philly if they gave that PK.
Yeah. That's something that as a DC United fan we weren't like hoping for it. I think that was the general feel.
Well, and then on the second goal, the actual penalty, I think all of us agreed as DC United homers for sure. But if you go up and you throw your arms out, expecting to try to block the ball, and you do in the box, you're going to get a penalty called against you, and you're going to deserve whatever happens from it.
Yeah, especially with these new handball rules that are still being worked out actively. I'm sure that tape is going to be sent up to FIFA to see how that affects how the rules interpreted next. But, I mean, every single day in 2020, that's going to be a PK. And then I think Bedoya got the yellow from it for chatting a little bit to the ref. He disagreed. I don't believe he was the one that conceded.
Later.
And then he absolutely should have had a second yellow later for kicking the ball right at Assad. It was ridiculous. And I think that had he not had the first, he probably would have gotten it for that.
Well, let's be fair. John has wanted to kick a ball at Assad several times.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Probably would have gotten thrown out for it, though.
What a transition. We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And I can tell our mood is a bit more upbeat even after getting a point tonight. There's plenty of laughter on the show. But if you want to interact with us, please jump in the YouTube chat. We had a little technical difficulties at the start of the show. I may or may not have kicked out the Wi-Fi. So we got that back going. We lost the chat for a bit, but the chat's back firing. You can still get to us using the hashtag Tried and True DCU. And, of course, you can give us a call at 202-892-6328. That's 202-892-6328. We saw a couple folks trying to call in earlier, but the call-in line is officially open. So if you'd like to join the show, please go ahead and give it another shot. So I just, wow, that is crazy from Jim Curtin. A guy who I guess I've come to respect quite a bit here, but yeah, that's interesting.
Well, and talk about coaching, first decision you're making on a day is a lineup, and the lineup you saw today was a lineup that was fairly heavily rotated from over the weekend. Bringing in Flores to start, putting Paredes in on the wing, bringing in Fisher to start. You saw several major changes. It looks like a coach who's getting folks out there to try to see what he's got and really get a feel for it. And the players responded. The team looked solid.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I was a little bit surprised not to see Gressel on the field based on his performance last week. I think he had an opportunity to grow on that. But the biggest thing is Rivas didn't start, right? We're trying to figure out who is our pairing up top. And again, not a lot of time in practice to figure it out. You kind of have to go through these games and try out different pairings and see who's going to work well together. So what did you all think of them up top today?
I thought they looked fine. And I think it comes down to what you're talking about. I'm not sure. Look, Chad hasn't come out and said that he wants this job. He's working for this job. He's been a little bit more coy about it, and it kind of feels like he's working out all the veterans and seeing what they have, kind of trying to help DC United get a look towards next year.
Do you think
and it looks like we do have a call coming in on the call-in line, so we'll go ahead and take that. Hey, what's going on? You're on Tried and True.
Hey, what's up, Tried and True? Hope you guys are doing well. I just had a couple thoughts about today's game.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think that Assad and Donovan Pines were like man of the match. I think both deserved it, but I think because the silly mistakes that Pines had, I would give it to Assad. But just to elaborate a little bit more on that, I think that Pines has to get better at like defending, in the sense of he was very slow. And he ought to be clearing those balls that are just, sitting there, because that's how the first goal comes, where this United was very organized in the back. And then he just decides to pass it to whoever was holding at the time, which I think it was Assad, to build up from the back. But when you have that kind of pressure from number 23 from Union, he was like pressuring very up high, so he had to clear that ball. So I think that answering your question that you were making, I think that Pines is better as like a third center back, and I think DC should stick with Birnbaum and Brillant. And Donovan Pines should work off season on like getting faster, agility, and like getting in his head that he has to clear the ball, because of his mistakes, his silly mistakes like that, we've been punished multiple times this season.
I just really happy to see he had a chance to make up for
find
it.
Better outside backs, because of that, Donovan is like stepping out of his center defender zone, and he's slow, so he's gonna get sidetracked all the time by these faster forwards. So I mean, I think overall, great performance by DC United. We're playing the second place in the East against the last. So the fact that we got a point, it feels like sort of a win in the sense of like we were down and then we came up, but then we went down again. But you can't do anything with that kind of McKenzie did. But some other takeaways that I had was that this team is showing a better identity, like Pines was saying in the press. Sorga and either Camara or Rivas, we have seen these two last games that Sorga had to start from like past games. I don't know, because of the salary. I've heard something about that. Because of the salary is that Ben decided to start either Camara or Rivas before. But I just think that, they have to earn their position and not just like based on their salary. So I just think this team just shows, better, more positive. It seems like, the environment in this team feels a little bit different than with Ben, because it seems like he was just throwing it under the bus, no identity of play, whereas Chad is finding an identity and, he's praising his team, his players, and he's talking great things about them and how can they be better collectively.
Yeah. Fran, what was your name? I didn't catch it.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for the call. What was your name? We want to give you a shout out. It looks like we might have lost him there.
I think I'm like pretty sure that was Dennis. He's called him before.
Yeah, lots of great points.
Call, yeah.
For sure. Thank you so much for the call. So two different routes I kind of want to go down from that. First, continuing to break down, some of the defensive breakdowns the team had. I talked to you guys a little bit while Donovan was speaking. It seemed like Philly realized that the kind of the path to good quality shots on target tonight was down the right side, pulling Donovan a little bit out of the traditional center back area, and once they could get him there, that left a hole, and they could either penetrate closer to the goal or get it out, and then they didn't have a giant center back in the middle and could blast a shot.
Which is such a good point. You want Donovan to like win those tackles, and he needs to be able to kind of stop that offense when it happens. But also, I mean, he was right. Where are the wingbacks to be able to also shut that down so Pines can be doing his job in the middle, right?
Yeah, I think the thing is that you don't want Pines and then Briant to be the one to making the recovery there. So, and we kind of hit on that earlier. Do we want Briant back next year starting, or do we want Pines starting with Birnbaum? I think we want Birnbaum no matter what. I think he's pretty much an MLS starter.
I want U.S. men's national team capped Birnbaum, but I don't know if we're going to get back there yet. But
headers in every game.
and frankly, if you get Birnbaum out there and you get a giant and Donovan Pines, you're threatening on corner kicks, you're threatening on set pieces, you're looking good going forward. Another point he made there about the play of the attackers today, particularly Sorga. Neither goal today came from strikers. We've made several moves to try to shore that up. We've talked about Kamara's struggles in the past. You're still not getting results from your strikers. Certainly more involved today and a little bit unlucky not to put the ball in the back of the net on a couple of those opportunities. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the goals came from a center back and a winger.
I mean, Sorga had an opportunity in the 45th
second.
That's
gotta be a goal, man.
Oh man, he totally. And I think Kamara was making that run back post too. Like they were both making those runs. It was a great ball in, and they should have had it in. And there were a couple others in the first half that we definitely should have had in, and we could have been up 2-0 easy.
I definitely liked seeing Kamara and Sorga start, and I think Dennis, thanks again for the call. I think fair play of was Sorga just not getting the starts because we'd invested a little more heavily in some other players, and was there a sense of as results were slipping away, could you not bench Kamara? But I mean, first came in for Ashton, he's like, yo, Ola, why don't you take a seat, man? And
yeah.
We were successful there, and then of course tonight Ola does get the start, comes out a little bit early, but trying some different things. I think at this point one of the big positives that we're going to see in the attacking game is because the tactics are allowing for more possession and more attacking. It's not going to be on Ola to convert the one chance he gets every game. He's going to have more and more opportunities. Now, what remains to be seen is what can he do with them.
And tonight wasn't a good showing in that aspect, right?
No, and it hasn't been all season.
Yeah. Another thing that Dennis said that I'd like to touch on that I've seen a lot of places is people saying that Ben didn't have a sense of identity. And I strongly disagree with that. He had a sense of identity. It was being very defensive and absorbing a lot of shots and trying to count on the counter and the one or two times we were going to move the ball up the field. A lot of people didn't like that, right? It wasn't very successful for us this season, obviously. But to me, not having an identity is kind of playing different strategies every time, playing completely different lineups. The team doesn't get into a sense of good rhythm. They're not really sure what to do on the ball. That's something you see a lot of times when a new coach comes in and they have to learn a different identity. But to me, Ben Olsen had an identity. It just wasn't one that was successful in this league this season.
I think, look, I want to take this opportunity to pat ourselves on the back, all our listeners on the back. We saw this in the squad. We said that they were underperforming, and that just the way they were set out was not helping them. And it looks like we were right. Through 2 games, we look way better on the offensive side of the ball.
Through 2 games, what I've seen is not only do we look better on the offensive side of the ball, but we don't have to park the bus and play that super defensive style, because that super defensive style was giving up like 3 goals a game, and this more attacking, possession-oriented style, which, by the way, Philly did have more possession tonight, but not by the margins we're used to seeing.
I think it probably came in the second half too, right? I don't have numbers on that, but I would imagine we had more in the first half than the second. We kind of let up at the end of the second part of the second half.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that heavily counted against us.
But I think we're averaging 2.0 goals allowed per game in the Chad Ashton era, and the 2 previous games in the Olsen era before that were 4.0 per game, right? So I mean, it's not where it needs to be, but the offensive side is coming along, and it's a little bit. It says a lot that we're playing a more attacking style, and yet somehow we're conceding fewer goals.
Absolutely, I completely agree, and I think. It came from last season, right? Like, we played just as defensive, but again, we mentioned Fred was playing out of his mind, right? And he was able to kind of just be a brick wall back there, and nothing was getting through. And I think that was the momentum that Ben was trying to bring into this season. It clearly didn't pan out. But he tried to continue that, just absorbing all the pressure. And it wasn't working. So now that we've shifted, and it's a lot better to have possession in their half, or at least around the halfway line in the middle third, because then if you're conceding it, you have that opportunity to get back.
And speaking of brick walls at the back, we got a result against the second best team in the conference without our national team quality goalkeeper. Bill Hamid,
and we haven't even mentioned that.
Bill Hamid missed the game tonight with a non-COVID related illness. Hope he's recovering well, and hope to see him back out there soon. Chris Seitz did everything we asked of him. There were a couple of times where you maybe want him to wrap the ball a little better, but neither of the goals were on him.
No, he's hung out to dry on the first one, and the second one was a rough deflection on a rocket, right? Yeah. You're absolutely right.
He made 1 or 2 really good saves, though. Like, he kept us in the game at some points.
For sure. So happy to see him continue to improve and get opportunities when and be ready when available. So good to see him there.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss to say, look, we've obviously talked around Frederick Briant quite a bit, and the reality is I wish my man was like 5 years younger, because
oh my gosh, I know.
Then we'd be set,
we
right?
Would be having
with these
this
3 center backs,
yeah.
there'd be no conversation to have. But age at some point is going to catch up with him, and with the way he's playing right now, I don't see any good reason why DC United wouldn't have him back next year. I hope at some point it's starting to move him out of a ideally starting 34 games type of role, right? Like you want to see him transition out, but no, I think Fred's a leader on this team, and unfortunately it's just kind of on the back 9 of his career, and DC United have to start to plan for that, because even if Donovan Pines is the answer long term next to Steven Birnbaum, which I think he has the potential to do, I think we all do. If we've learned nothing else from 2020, it's that injuries will happen, and we've got to have a deep enough squad to survive.
Look, Jill Ellis likes to play with wing backs way up the field. We're going to need faster center backs. I'm just joking around.
You totally lost where I was going to go with the show from
Way
here.
to go, Joshua.
Man, you
Well,
killed
now that
me.
we talked about JLS, we don't have to talk about it anymore.
That's right. We check that box for the night. I think that's bingo on the coaching front. We mentioned Olsen and Ashton.
Oh, we got Harks.
John
There we
Harks,
go.
yep.
Okay, there we go.
There
I
you
have
go.
bingo. Listen, one of the things we kind of set out to do is deliberately not rehash the conversations we had last week about coaches. I mean,
Last Sunday.
Yeah,
3 days ago, not even last week. And that's part of the reason why is because it was just a couple days ago
Yeah.
and no real news has come out.
No, and I think what we'll probably try to do is as we get less speculative and more, confirmed news about like interviews that the team actually has candidates in, we can talk more about that. And of course, if you all have thoughts as our listeners, we would love to hear it. That's certainly a way to kind of bring the coaching into the conversation. But we've kind of given our piece at this point, and I'm sure we'll bring it back over the next few weeks. But especially on a night like tonight when the team showed so much promise, there's a little bit of here and now to talk about. And I actually got to look. I mean, I looked to see where Philly were in the standings, but I don't think Sam, I think you're right. I don't think we're mathematically eliminated yet, which is good.
So I'll be rooting the whole time.
538 puts us at less than 1%. So
we're still at less than one.
It's not quite
More
over.
We're not.
than
We can't
zero.
be greater than one
That
yet.
is
Let's
more
see. So
than
we're.
zero.
I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, this is ugly.
We need 7.
I forgot just how bad it was. We're 7 points out, and
We're sitting at 13 now, correct?
Chicago have a game in hand.
We're on 12 points. 19 right now would put
12
you in
points
plus.
after tonight?
We were 11 going in.
Okay.
Yeah, we only got one tonight, unfortunately.
No,
We should have had
I thought
3.
we were at 12 going in.
Brutal.
We're not. But
Maybe I was looking at like a live table in the middle of the game.
yeah, regardless, it's possible that you find a way to back into that 10th spot. Looking at the teams ahead of us, Cincinnati, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, all teams that could very easily go ice cold down the stretch.
And 2 teams we play, so that's
Yeah, that
I mean
does
that'd
help.
be
Those
huge if we were
6-point
able to get all
games.
6 points. Yeah, or all 3 points. It basically makes it 6 points, right?
But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We haven't actually shown an ability to win aside from 2 times this year. But
Gene in the comments says, "Never tell me the odds."
They're not good, so we won't spell them out for you.
But hey, 7 points with 6 games, there are worse situations to be in. It could be 7 points with 5 games, or 4 games, or 3 games.
Yes, mathematically, yes.
Yeah, speaking of wins that hopefully won't elude us for much longer, our friends at Across the Pond are trying very hard to give away a gift card. They plan to do that the next time DC United wins. We're trending in the right direction, friends.
Exactly.
So keep an eye on the @Across the Pond DC account. I think anyone who likes the specific tweet they put out for the game can win a gift card if DC United win. And of course, just for listening to our show, you can use the promo code podcast for 5% off your order, whether that's to go or eating in, watching the Giants lose or the Patriots hopefully lose. I'm a Giants fan, so we lose all the time. Most of my teams lose at this point. But DC United are getting back on the winning track, and our friends at Across the Pond will feed you once they do with a gift card.
Man of the match?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first tonight. I don't
Big
regularly
news.
go first, but
Breaking
since you called it
news.
out, I feel like I get to go first. Yamil Assad for sure tonight. I think he's officially out of my doghouse, especially if he continues to play like this. I mean, he had energy, he had confidence. He obviously scored on the PK, which was pretty well taken. At first, I was a little bit disappointed, but you're right. He absolutely sent the goalkeeper the wrong way, and so the placement didn't have to be perfect. I'm thrilled with what we've seen out of Yamil the last couple games, and definitely if he can keep this up, I mean, he could be an easy every match starter next year and a guy who's given this team an edge. So props to Yamil, my man of the match.
Yeah, I'm going to go second because I completely agree. Yamil is my man of the match as well, even before he had scored that PK. I think he played with a lot of energy and personality today, and he's kind of breaking out and coming into his own, which is exciting to see. He was he was faking people out. He was doing the moves. He got that kick right outside, that not really a PK, but possibly being looked at for a PK, which was definitely a dive. But it was very smart of him. He knew
I
what
was
he was
very
doing.
concerned they were looking at that to come back and issue a red for a dive, at which point it would have just been emblematic
been our
of the
luck.
DC United season.
But yeah, no, I think he has completely flipped since Chad has taken over, and I hope that he continues to just kind of rise up and play to the potential that we know that he could be. Like, this is the Yamil Assad that everyone wanted to sign back to DC United. So I'm excited to see it, and I hope we get to continue to do so.
I'm going to be boring and go the exact same direction. I thought we saw a lot of Yamil today. You know, the team also named him their man of the match. Particularly, like we said, a guy who was animating, a guy who drawing free kicks. I had forgotten that he was actually the one who sent the corner in that Pines buried in the back of the net. And even down towards the end of the game, as time's starting to run down, you see him come up, spin around, and run past a guy, and get so far in his head that your opponent turns around and kicks the ball at you, and probably should have been out of the game. Yeah, that's a guy who is clearly impacting the game beyond just his physical ability and actually really dictating what's going on there. And that's what you'd love to see, and we'd love to see more of.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I thought Donovan Pines had a really good night. Congrats on the first goal, but I have to agree with our caller that the mistakes in the back, which we gave up, the first goal was just silly, and Donovan has a part to play in that, and so he can't be the man of the match for me tonight. It's got to be Yamil Assad. He was dynamic on the ball, and this kind of weird 4-4-2 that doesn't exactly put – that's not the most attacking formation, and he was a very attacking player tonight. So props to him, man of the match for me.
If we come in next year and you've got Assad playing at a high level, you get Gressel to find his form, you get Areola. Apparently Flores likes to play on the wing as well.
Flores just finding an identity in MLS, I think could be massive.
And it's not unknown that it takes a little bit too. And he went out on injury, and now he's got that face mask on, which a lot of people have been asking about, and he's still getting used to. So. And
that's not even mentioning Yao or
Paredes.
Nyman.
There's going to be a lot of competition for time on the wings.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the real question to me there, and we can probably close the show like this, but like, the midfield potentially so strong, even at defensive midfield. I mean, Joshua, you and I talk regularly about like between Canals, Moreno, hopefully a healthy Felipe coming back. I mean, you got three guys that can play at that defensive mid. Abu, who hopefully will be healthy again. Midfield's overloaded. We've seen Seitz as a very capable goalkeeper to step in when Bill is ill or can't go, right? Backline, we talked about in depth today, needing some help, but the striker just eludes this team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do we do up top? Is that
I think you have to splash cash, and we've seen this across MLS. I'd also say that we don't have the right kind of striker for our team. The big hold up finisher kind of striker is not what this team is geared for. We don't have that kind of service all the time. It's a very apparent.
Sam, do you have a name in mind? I mean, I see you get excited over there.
I've been saying that for years. I'm like, I completely agree. No, I'm excited because I completely agree.
It just is very apparent that we don't whip in crosses all day, and I don't want us to. I like when Assad is running at goal. I like when Areola is running at goal. I like when Gressel is getting it, and even though he provides a lot of service. But I think we need to go out, splash some cash, find a big name striker that can make runs in behind, or even just create chances for himself. That would be the striker that does it for DC United.
Do you have a name in mind?
Raul Ruiz-Diaz. He's currently with Seattle. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. They're looking for a replacement for him for the rest of the season, and they're not gonna skim there. They're going to buy a good striker.
And then you think they'll get rid of him though?
I think that I think that leaves them with a redundant striker. He's Peruvian, so he'd link up well with Yordi and Flores. That would be a dream signing. He's done it in this league before. Look, this wasn't prompted at all. We didn't script this at all.
That's
that
good.
To me would be like a Gressel signing where you didn't expect that he was going to leave, and then he does, and DC United is somehow the team that convinces him to come here. Like, that would blow my mind.
It does. Souder at Heart is reporting that he could return to play as soon as October 27th, though, so that could be a challenge.
I'd be shocked to see him leave Seattle.
Got COVID with Peruvian national team.
But yes, I was going to go there next. The only knock I have against him, I think that's a great shout. He is 30. And so I guess my ideal signing in this space would be a little bit younger and a little bit longer of a.
At some point, we start looking for a unicorn, a guy who is 17 years old and playing at it
and proven will absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if we could get like a Wayne Rooney at 17 and willing to spend his whole career at DC United, That would be great.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad if we signed a then 31-year-old and we had like a really good season, because that's going to start to attract some of that other
Summer
talent.
birthday, so 30 and a half.
Oh, okay, sorry. But I wouldn't be mad to like put Band-Aids on the situation right now, right? And like sign a couple strikers, sign a couple center backs, and then, just figure it out for next season, have a more successful next season, make the playoffs, and then but it be a longer term conversation, which again we talked about last
we're
episode.
talking about age. We haven't had the same striker for over a year. And how many years? Like
Since
he's
Bobby,
30,
right?
He's 30. He could probably do at least 1 or 2 more years. I would take that for the level that he's performed at MLS.
Yeah, don't take what I said as a don't sign it. I was just like, dang, I wish he was 28 or 24. Or
Wayne gave us a full year
20,
and a half. No, but I agree with you, Josh.
Wayne, our center midfielder forward.
I want to see them, again, easy to spend money that is not mine, but I would like to see them actually splash cash on a higher end type of player. Rudias would be a great fit. Somebody who is going to make an impact and really is going to draw people out there to see them play. They've tried a couple of different opportunities to bring in other folks. You've had speedsters up top. You've had, hold up guys. You've had lots of MLS retreads. I really think you need to kind of raise the expectations for what you're going to get at that position.
You're right. And I think at the end of the day, DC United, we don't need a poacher, right? That's not what this team is. We don't have enough opportunities, and we're not chilling in the opposition's 18-yard box enough for that to be the type of striker that we need. I mean, we know that Gressel can whip in those crosses and get those assists, so I wouldn't be mad if we kind of signed someone who was able to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's interesting to me just listening to you guys talk and hearing my own excitement, on tonight's show, just a totally different outlook after a couple games removed from largely playing benny ball, right? And knowing how many injured players we have in the stands. I think Devin made a joke on the broadcast tonight about how it's like a full section of injury riddled players. But when you look back at the team we had last year, or even the year before, I mean, if everyone's healthy on this team, the talent level's probably higher, with the exception of Wayne. And Wayne, obviously, you talk about unicorns, right? I mean, he was at the end of his career, but I mean, he's an all-time player,
playing,
right? And he is still playing.
and hitting amazing free kicks.
Yeah,
he sure was. A lot more facial hair now, which was kind of jarring when I see those highlights. But
hey, a lot of us are in that same boat.
That's true. Quarantine will do that.
Yeah, same.
That thought is now officially gone. No. To me, I think now, you're right, Joshua. Now is the time to really actually splash some cash, and because if you bring in, that elite level striker with this type of supporting cast, we talked about a stacked midfield. If everybody could stay healthy, everybody's fighting for minutes. You bolster the back line just a little bit. You've got still a top tier goalkeeper in the back. That's an impact signing. I mean, when you look at a team that brings in a Wayne Rooney like they did that put them into MLS Cup contenders? I mean, maybe that year it did when they were on a run, but consistently, I don't know that it was enough, but I think they were starting to build around that, right? And they could be a couple moves away from something really special if they could just stay healthy. But in my book, the biggest signing is whatever they got to do on the sport health side of this team to keep people healthy, sign that person or that group of people.
Absolutely. You got to have guys healthy to get out there. And I do want to pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think we're necessarily a piece or two away. I absolutely agree that there is the talent there, that if they are all hitting on all cylinders and playing at the top of their game, this can be a very good team. We've also seen this year, even when the injuries align and you still get a close to first selection team out there, they can play very badly.
I also
sure can. A lot of that's going to come down to who you have system wise and who you have manning the sidelines as the coach.
Which is what I was about to say. Those one or two pieces could be a coach too, because you see coaches come in with all-star studded lineups and they don't have anything to do with it, and the team really goes off the rails. And then you also see coaches who come in and make the most out of a little bit of talent, and they really manage the players well and teach them and develop them, and then you have this amazing team making a run that no one would have thought possible at the beginning of the season. So I do think that this coaching signing is like a critical moment moving forward.
Yeah, the next 3 months for DC United are going to be arguably some of the most important in franchise history here to get this hire right and get this transfer window right as we move into the next season. But there's still a number of games. What is it? 6 remaining here in the 2020 MLS season.
Plus playoffs.
Crazy.
Plus, hopefully, playoffs. We're not eliminated yet, Sam.
Exactly.
We've got this weekend. We have Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
Cincy away.
Cincy out at Cincy Sunday night, 7:30.
I like it. It's a winnable game.
Absolutely.
If we play the way we have been playing, I expect Cincy are still bad. We are on the upswing. I'm not predicting a win or anything, but I feel good about it.
Sam, any off the pitch notes we got to get to for this week, for this midweek show?
I don't think so. Go vote. Virginia extended its deadline to register to vote until Thursday, the 15th at midnight, because they had a little bit of snafu on their website. So just
someone cut a cable. It's ridiculous.
Quote unquote accident.
Can't win them all.
Somebody go. Everyone go. Like, make sure you're registered. Make sure you get out there to vote. Make sure you encourage everyone to do so. Make sure you're talking to DC United, telling them what you want to see. Hispanic Heritage Month. They're doing a lot of great things. Would love to see that extended. Black Lives Still Matter.
Good rundown.
Yeah.
That was well done. And for those of you guys who didn't note it, in preparation for this weekend's game against FC Cincinnati, check out the goalkeeper. They just signed probably one of the coolest names, or maybe not, depending on how you look at it. Beckham Sunderland.
Coolest, corniest, in between, one or the other.
I saw a tweet earlier of let's just start combining random English soccer players with random English soccer teams and, see what you come up with. So maybe that'll be everyone's homework for this week. We'll see if we can come up with the best potential future FC Cincinnati goalkeeper name.
I like it.
All right.
It's been a fun show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out relatively late on your Thursday or your Wednesday night. I'm already got us transitioning into Thursday morning. Big point tonight for the Black and Red. We'll see if we can get 3 on Sunday against Cincinnati. But for now, this has been Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken.